The world of fixed Japanese mixed martial arts matches. The sports industry has long been plagued by the fixing of events, and there isn't much that can be done to root out the corruption. Great athletes and teams have been embarrassed by the exposures of their conduct, starting with the historic Calciopoli scandal that shook Italian football and continuing with the various match-fixing allegations that have affected cricket, boxing, and even tennis. The enormous sums of money at stake in the ring and, more significantly, at the betting establishments have always made fighting sports the target of rigging. As they say, placing a wager is simple when you already know the result. Boxing may be the sport most afflicted by rigged fights, but MMA isn't much different. Numerous claims of fixed fights have been made in MMA from the beginning to as recently as last month, with Japan being the most infamous location. In light of this, let's explore the world of fixed Japanese mixed martial arts matches. First and foremost, is the UFC fixing fights? I don't think so. Actually, on nearly every UFC night, terrible judgment and judges screwing competitors are becoming more common. This may appear suspicious at first and lead you to believe that many UFC fights are manipulated. To be very honest, some of the choices made in recent years went much beyond what was reasonable. However, this is primarily because more fights end in decisions, the judges are incompetent, and the scoring system is flawed. Fixed MMA fights typically take place in smaller promotions, and the majority of the footage is from Japan. Numerous athletes have alleged that some medium-sized and even major MMA promotions manipulate matches. It was very evident in the 2000s that several Eastern promotions were engaging in dubious activities. But in the end, smaller regional circuits hosted the majority of the fixed MMA fights. It's easy to understand why. No matter how little, every MMA promotion aspires to develop a star and send them to the UFC or Bellator. This is how they make money, get sponsors, and establish a solid reputation that enables them to advance in the rank. If they think you have talent, they'll invest a lot of money in establishing your reputation, brand, and of course, a flawless record. It is at this point when fighting is fixed. The greatest approach to maintain a spotless record without taking any chances is to fix a fight. This is nothing new or revolutionary, as it has been done in other sports like boxing. Since the beginning of professional fighting sports, promotions have improved fighters' records. They accomplish this through altering contests, standings, and even titles. A Yahoo article by Dave Meltzer described the custom of MMA on New Year's Eve in Japan. A few bloggers were surprised to learn how Federer wound up working for the Inoki Bombayi 2003 event. And you can use any other term you like to describe them instead of the Pride event that same night. However, allow me to provide you with some more thorough explanation of what actually transpired based on my personal knowledge. Legends was a catastrophic event that Antonio Inoki had organized. The PPP call for the match was made by veteran All Japan Pro Wrestling play-by-play man Akira Fukuzawa. This is the incident where Sanae Kikuta was brutally attacked by Antonio Rodrigo Nogueira and forced to do a stretcher act. The main event, Naoya Ogawa vs. Matt Ghaffari, was a complete disaster. The performance was abject at the box office and damaged Inoki's reputation. Tetsuo Kawamura, a legendary figure in the Japanese entertainment industry, supported this initiative and every subsequent endeavor undertaken by the Big Chin since then. Ogawa has long had a tight relationship with Kawamura, who runs K-Dash, one of the biggest entertainment firms in Japan. You need to be aware of the 2002 Japanese MMA industry's power structure. K1 and Pride were collaborating. The two factions' power structures, as we've learned over the past few years, were as follows. In K1, Kazuyoshi Ishii served as the organization's boss. Kanemae and Nobuaki Kakuta, as well as Saya Kawamata and Daisuke Teraguchi, an avowed Yakuza fixer, served in supporting roles. The supporters of Pride included Naoto Moroshita, Nobuyuki Sakakibara, and Hiromichi Momoose, the man in the early Pride events who constantly marked out the fighters at ringside after the fights were ended while wearing black spectacles and a ball cap. Nobuhiko Takada has never had significant power within the group. Instead, he has always served as the frontman, or spokesperson. After UWF International ended and Pride began in 1997 under the KRS brand, Momoose followed Takada. Morishita and Sakakibara, originated from Yagoa, served as Pride's administrative center. The powerful agents were mixed in with all of this. Akira's Meida's secretary Motoko Uchida, who oversaw the ring's promotion at the time, ultimately served as a liaison for the Brazilian top team in Japan. For a very long time in Japan, it was rumored that Uchida had Toso Koumaro's full support, the same guy backing Inoki and supposedly Kawamata. The decision-maker for the Japanese Chute Box Academy was Koichi Buker Kawasaki. Miro Mijatovic, who was born in Australia, was the Goto super agent because he was actually the most powerful foreign agent in Japan at the time, managing Federer, Mirko Cro Cop, as well as fighters in Federer's camp. Mijatovic had contracts with well-known athletes like the renowned swimmer Ian Thorpe, and had made a fortune as a contract lawyer in Japan for many years. Bas Boone, who was very close to Golden Glory, and Mijatovic collaborated on projects. J-Founder, Rock's Mr. Kukubo, supports boxers like Hidehiko, Yoshida, Kazuhiro Nakamura, and others. The newest World Victory Road endeavor is now supported by J-Rock, the incidents that forever changed the Japanese MMA scene. All of this information is now new to those of you who have been following the Pride Yakuza controversy from the beginning. Here is a summary of what happened in the case You Are a Newbie. On August 28, 2002, at Kokuritsu National Stadium in Tokyo, K1 Pride and Inoki collaborated on a large concert dubbed Dynamite, produced by K1. The quantity of production equipment and portable restrooms required to stage this concert was enormous because the stadium was designed to be utilized for soccer. Despite the estimated attendance of 91,000, the event garnered a massive audience of over 70,000 legitimately paid spectators. Things began to unravel after this incident. All parties had been collaborating on events since New Year's Eve of 2000. 2000 with a Sky Perfect TV PPV at the Osaka Dome 2001 to 2002 was at Saitama Super Arena taped for Tokyo Broadcasting System. However, following two significant events, the groups began fighting one another. Rumors said that K1 was experiencing some tax issues, in addition to lavishly supporting overseas fighters. Kazuyoshi Ishii had a desperate desire to sign Mike Tyson. Ishii was ultimately apprehended in a search by the Tokyo tax office in December 2002. There have been claims that combatants were being paid illegally, that a contract for Mike Tyson was falsified to transfer funds, and the documentation of these wrongdoings was purposely erased. Ishii ultimately received a prison sentence together with an unidentified Bangladeshi guy who was apprehended abroad and jailed for fabricating contracts for Ishii. Ken Imai was allegedly connected to Ishii at one point in time regarding business dealings. However, he was never accused or found guilty of any crimes. Imai ultimately left the K1 power structure. Fake fights in Japan have gained a lot of attention as a result of one particular incident. Following Emelianenko's victory against Frank Mir at Bellator 198, Sonnen of the UFC was summoned into the cage for a stare-down. The exchange was, to put it mildly, unpleasant, but on his podcast, Sonnen took a more thoughtful shot at Emelianenko's historical record of competing in Japan. "You won't say anything about me, but I will say something about you. I don't accept your wins in Japan," Sonnen said. "The referee was wearing an earpiece. You never had a weigh-in. You never had a commission. Anyone that came over from Japan to America has a losing record. Why? I'll tell you, because the fights over here are real and they are fixed in Japan. You got a whole lot of rub and a whole lot of money out of doing the fake fights. That pisses me off as a fan who bought those fights and that later found out I was buying Braslin," while accusing Federer of taking part in fixed matches. Kiel acknowledged that Federer might not have been aware of the fixed matches. "Federer would greatly be offended if I said that he had a fake fight," Sonnen said. "I've said this to Cro Cop, who was offended. He couldn't believe that I said it. Wanderlei Silva couldn't believe I said it. That guy's crazy." In professional wrestling, the person who will be put over will sit down in the same room as the person who will do it, and they will then plan the bout together. In Japan, they only revealed the information to one individual. So when your promoter, also known as Yakuza, also known as the Japanese Mafia, steps in and instructs the opponent when to go down, the guys who were going to win, your Cro Cops, your Wanderleis, and your Feders, they were never in the room. So when the guy goes down, the winner, Cro Cop, Wanderlei, Federer, just for example, really thinks they won. So they don't know that the fix is in. Pretty soon they really think they can go beat 20-something guys in a row. So the next time you see something strange, be sure to investigate it further. The majority of the time it all takes place during a tiny local promotion. Everything starts when a skilled opponent withdraws from the fight and is replaced by someone with a very poor track record. He or she would frequently dive extremely early in a fight once it had begun, frequently as a result of missed or incomplete blows. Unworthy for the sport in the least.